Hey people, welcome back to the Slight Sarcasm Podcast. I'm Celeste.
I'm Amber.
And welcome back to another episode.
Yes, hello.
Yeah, we're back.
I'm in a good mood today. I don't know about you. I'm in a good mood.
I'm in an okay mood. I mean, yeah. I'm glad you're in a good mood though. That's nice. It's
okay.
Good.
I will carry this episode for us.
Hey, you know what? I'm down for it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. What happened this week? I feel like not a whole... Oh, yeah. Work, kind of pissed me off, but I'm not going to talk about that on the air, but...
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I feel like nothing really happened this week.
Yeah, I think I had an okay week as well. Yeah, I would say uneventful is a way to describe it, but this weekend's been really nice. Just been relaxing. Tried to get all my chores and stuff done on Friday, but I'm halfway there, so I'm going to finish the rest later. But yeah, it's just been nice to kind of just kick back for a little bit.
I did a lot of chores yesterday as well, which is very mundane and adulting, but my house was dirty. I needed to clean it. So
yeah, my kitchen was looking real bad.
Same. I don't know how it gets so bad, but it does.
I know exactly how it gets so bad for me.
Gets so bad. And then I personally don't like cleaning. Even though I'm pretty sure all the people that I've ever lived with would disagree with that statement, but I actually don't like cleaning. I just do it out of necessity. And I was talking to my parents the other day, and I was like, I think I'm gonna get a housekeeper. 'Cause I just would prefer not to clean if I don't have to. I just don't. I hate cleaning.
Yeah, I feel the same. I would love to have someone help me keep this place up. Obviously, Jonas and I do what we can. But I would like to have someone outside of our situation come in maybe every other week and just help with the difficult stuff. But I'm trying to save that for when I have more money, because I would like to, well, one, I'd like to employ someone and have them be gainfully employed, but also I've always wanted to, I don't know, this is kind of just me thinking of what I would do if I was rich. I would always love to pay someone, have them come in, interview, and say, oh, I'm charging X amount of money, and then just double it for them and not tell them. Just because I think it's just so, it's such a thankless job, really. There's a lot of thankless jobs, but I think that's also a very thankless job, because you have to embed yourself in someone's, personal space and clean it to their liking. I've just seen stuff like that. I've seen on TikTok, there's housekeeping TikTok and cleaning TikTok there, where there's a lot of housekeepers that kind of talk about secrets of how they run the businesses they do and whatnot, and they really, a lot of them just talk about they have to know their clients, because they have to know how they like things. They know X person only likes unscented detergent, so they use unscented, and this person only likes this scent, and they can't use these colored candles because all this crazy stuff. But anyways, I just think it's a really thankless job, and if I could pay someone better than they're expecting, I will absolutely do that. But that's just me, so I'm waiting. I'm trying to do it myself. I think if I grind long enough, it'll make it even more easy for me to want to do better, I guess.
Yeah, no, I agree. I would probably do the same thing. Definitely pay someone way more than they're asking for, just because why not? If I have the money, then
exactly. Yeah, it's and I've realized this too. I think this kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today, but it's really about saving your own time. And this is something my mom really got me to see. It's why break your neck trying to do stuff that's super time consuming and difficult if you have the means to pay someone to do it for you. And a lot of that for me comes from grocery shopping. I think that's a really for my partner and I, it's very stressful for us to go grocery shopping in the store because we get overwhelmed and we get impatient with each other, and we impulse buy and then we spend more money than we wanted to and whatever. But so we use like services like Instacart and like the other grocery delivery services to like why not pay somebody to do that for you so you can focus on other stuff that's important to you. So I don't know, I guess that's just kind of how I think about it. It's like if someone can save you a few hours every once in a while, then yeah, you should pay for that. If you can, of course.
I agree. Yeah. And also pay them well.
Yes.
Because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to move on to our segment this week. We're going to be talking about money again. Very exciting. I know that everybody always wants to talk about money at all the time. I totally get it. But yeah, so today we're talking about saving and budgeting. So this is like I feel like saving and budgeting is like the finance thing that everyone talks about. Like how to save more money. You need a budget. What's including your budget? Blah blah blah. Whatever. Whatever. I feel like that's like the fundamentals of finance. Yeah. And I do want to have like a mini conversation before we like dive deep into like what we do and like answer like questions and stuff like that. Is if you don't make enough money to save, this is not a conversation that is, this is not a conversation that you can relate to because you just don't have enough money to save. And a lot of the things that we talk about, it's not your main focus right now. Your main focus is trying to make enough money to pay all your bills.
Yeah.
And so I do think the budgeting aspect is still important. You still need to know what's going in and what's coming out. That's still important for anyone who has a job and is paying bills. But the saving aspect of it might not be. If you're making $725, you're not thinking about saving. Like, if you're working full time making $725, like you're not thinking about savings. You can't save on that kind of budget unless you have very specific parameters that allow you to save. Like you can't have any bills and you're probably living with someone who doesn't charge you rent. Like you don't, then maybe in that instance you could save. But if you're in the red like every month, you're not going to be able to save. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. That I agree. But I will jump in here and kind of note something. I also realize it's a very touchy subject, especially if you're not making the money that you want to make. But I do think it's still a very important subject to, have knowledge of and know about and be prepared for. So when you do finally get in that situation where you are feeling like you're ready to start putting your own money away, you're able to cover your bills and then you've got some left over, I think you should still, understand and get the fundamentals of saving. Budgeting it's helpful no matter how much money you make, even if you really don't make any money. Saving, of course, yeah, like Celeste says, it's case by case. If you just don't have the means to save, there's not really too much you can do about it. All these people who say, oh, you just got to cut out your latte and stuff, people who are making minimum wage are already doing that. That's not anything that you can tell people who don't earn enough money because they're just not making enough. But with that said, you should still absolutely know where to start when you do get that break, that lucky break, or that you have like a windfall or something, or you get a promotion, or you get a new job, or you maybe you get a second or a third job, and you finally are feeling like you've got some expendable income. That's when the saving comes in. So I wouldn't necessarily say it doesn't really apply to you, it might not interest you right now, but I think it is really still very important to um, at least know the basics and know where to start with certain things like that. So
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that.
yeah,
So,
so
yeah.
sorry, just obviously, I think some people will say, oh well, maybe this isn't the episode for me, and that's fine. But again, I really encourage you, even if you're not currently in that position, to educate yourself so that you're ready and you can start off on the right foot and you can be excited about it when the opportunity arises. So
Yeah. Okay. So our first question is, how do you even start? And pretty much you start with, I think you start with the budgeting aspect of it. You have to
yeah,
know how much you're getting paid pre and post taxes, and knowing how much your bills are, essentially. That is pretty much the essence of your budget. So I know, I feel like for everyone, you're paying some sort of living expense, whether that's rent or your mortgage. You're probably paying some utility bills, whether that's water, sewer, electric, gas. Maybe you have a car payment, that's another bill. Maybe you have your phone bill, that's another bill. Car insurance, um, maybe also health insurance if you're paying out of pocket. Um, I don't know what else. What do I pay for? I think that's all the groceries, gas for your car, like every little thing that you use like once a month. You should be also like credit card payments, student loans, like anything, any bill that you're paying for, anytime like you're whatever you're spending your money on monthly, you should be jotting, you should know what that is, and you should know what that number is, because that's extremely important. Any, also the miscellaneous stuff like Netflix, Hulu, subscriptions, you
yep,
know, that's extremely important. You want to like go through your bank statements. These, I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard a lot of this stuff already, but go through your bank statements and make sure that like you see the charges and be like, go through all of your charges. I know when I first started um like working on my budget, it was like nerve-wracking because I was like, I do not want to think
yeah,
about how much money I'm spending, but it was something that you like absolutely have to do,
yeah,
because if you don't, then you're just not knowing like how much money you're spending at all times. So I would say start there, like pull up your bank statement, um or bank statements depending on like how you're spending your money, um and just go through it and just make, you can make a list if you want. There are lists online. I personally just write it down. I like to write things cuz it helps me remember better. So I had a little, I guess, bullet journal before bullet journals were a thing. And I had like I had like a physical notebook, and I had like colored pens cuz I'm a colored pen person, and I would like write how much I was getting paid every week, cuz I get paid weekly. So I was like, okay, I get paid this amount this week, so that means that I make this amount a month. And then I would be like, okay, what are my monthly expenses? I wrote down rent is blah blah blah, utilities is blah blah blah, car payment is blah blah blah, car, and just like so on and so forth. Just go from there, and then you total it all up and see where you are. So I think that's, but you have to go through and make sure that line by line what the numbers are. And that's pretty much how you start your budget.
Yeah, I agree. And so to kind of package up what Celeste was saying, and in my opinion, um, you got to start at the basics, which is what are your expenses and how much money are you actually bringing in. You can do it on a monthly basis, on a weekly basis. However, typically people, I think, look at it on a monthly basis because you can, I think most people have a general idea of how much money they make per month. Or I think the more important thing is how much money you actually get in your bank accounts
Yeah.
every month after your taxes on your, after your state tax and all the federal tax and healthcare and all that stuff is taken out. What do you actually get in your net check, every month, right? So you get that amount, you write that down. Let's use, I'll just use an example. Like you get $2,000 a month, right? After everything's said and done. That's what you get in your bank account every month. Then you go, like Celeste said, you go for your bank account because I think it's really important, one, to make sure that you don't have any random charges that you're not accounting for. So, I know personally for me, I go through like every 6 months or so, I'll do that, and I'll go through, and I always catch something where I'm like, $5 a month to that? No, I haven't used that in 6 months. I'm gonna get rid of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You will always find stuff that you were not aware of, and so that's why I think it's really important to go through the bank accounts. But apart from doing that, you find those recurring charges like Celeste said, your bills, your extra stuff like Netflix, your groceries, all that other stuff, right? So you write those down, like Celeste said, add those up, add that total up, get that rough number. It doesn't have to be exact, but just if you can ballpark it within $100 or so, I think that's pretty good. And then compare the two numbers, right? Are you bringing in more money than what you're typically spending every month? Which means, are you keeping a positive balance, or are you going paycheck to paycheck, or even worse, or are you, having to charge stuff on your credit card because you just don't have enough every month? So it's
Mm-hmm.
important to kind of know your status before you even start, because I think that will depend on how you structure your budget itself. So, if you realize, okay, I'm only bringing in 2,000 a month, but I'm spending, $2,300 a month typically, then okay, now you look at, okay, well, where is that extra $500 going to, and then that's when you can start to see things that you either want to reduce your spending on or cut it out completely. And that's where people are saying, well, you just get rid of your Starbucks lattes. Yeah, you can get rid of them, but you might not have to. Maybe you just say, okay, instead of going to Starbucks every morning, maybe I only pick 3 days a week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you can kind of start to, I think, experiment with different ways to trim up your budget and stuff. And I think we'll get into this a little more as discussion goes on. But yeah, in general sense, you get your totals for your spending versus what you're making, and see where you're at, get your status, and I think that would be, the base level where you would start.
Yeah, I agree. That was really good. Um, what does your budget look like?
For me, because I'm lazy, I use programs to help me track stuff, and this is actually something we'll expand upon it towards the end here. We'll talk about specific programs we can use. But I like to use apps and things that are just easy for me to pull up. I can check it every day. Maybe they send me a notification once a week to say, here's how you're doing. That stuff is really helpful. But I think in general, I I like to group stuff in categories so I can see where I'm focusing a lot of my spending on. So so you can group things, and I again, I'm lazy, so I don't like to be super specific, but I say, okay, well, these are my bills. These are my, I know the cost of these every single month. They're the same, my car note, my, cable or internet bill, my electricity bill, gas bill, all that stuff. Those are my bills. I wrote those into one column or one section, I guess. Then I've got my, like Celeste mentioned, like miscellaneous stuff, right? So my Netflix subscription, my random subscription if I have like a Patreon subscription or something like that. Those are the things where it's like, yeah, that's extra stuff that's not obviously not required for me to survive, but it's there. And I'm okay with spending that, spending money on that every month. Then I've got groceries, which I that's the one place where I think most people will have some flexibility, and you can notice a lot of changes between your groceries and your takeout or like your restaurant or entertainment sections. Those are going to be the most important ones, in my opinion, for you to start to kind of trim if you need to trim your budget. So again, my next category would be like entertainment stuff. Like, okay, well, if I give myself $200 a month to, this is like pre-COVID, but if my partner and I have a budget of 200 to go to movies or go to a museum or take a little day trip or something like that. That's where that portion of the budget goes. And then you kind of have like everything else. If you have like healthcare stuff, like let's say you're seeing a therapist or you have a chiropractor or something, like those things that aren't really keyed into your um, work healthcare and they maybe come out of pocket. That would be another category there too. So yeah, that's kind of how my budget is structured, and I think that allows me to, if you look at it like almost in like a pie graph, you can see the percentages, like where you're spending most of your money. So again, if I have $2,000 a month and I'm spending, oh, and of course I forget like rent and stuff like that. So if I'm spending, you know, $1,300 on all of my housing and bills, and then $300 on groceries, and so on and so on, you can see where the portions of the pie are obviously bigger than others and where you have wiggle room in there. So what about
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like yours is how you do yours is fairly common. Mine is pretty similar. But I don't use apps or programs or anything. I don't like them reminding me how I spent my money. I just don't.
Well, when I get tired of that, I just turn the notifications off and I'm like, all right, I'll check it myself. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I
fair.
agree. It's annoying.
Yeah, like I used to when I first started, and then I stopped. I think I used some app. Maybe it was like Mint or something like that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people know about Mint at this point.
Yeah.
And that, yeah,
Um
that seems to be like the starter app.
mhm. This was like 3 4 years ago though. But yeah, and apps are a great way for you to start off if you need to. Um that you can like I think with Mint I could like link my bank account and it would just like populate like everything like all the
Hmm.
numbers and stuff,
Yeah.
so that was really cool. But then I stopped because like I didn't want another finance app on my phone so I was like this is not really like my cup of tea. So I like I said before, I started doing the like just writing it down on my own. And so yeah, I have my categories are a bit simpler. Well, I guess I don't really have any categories. I just have like what are my bills? Because
Yeah.
I feel like I don't have a lot of bills compared to some other people. So it's just like so I have it written down. It's just like rent, and then my rent includes like water and sewer, so I have to pay for like electric, and then oh, what's the other thing, the internet, and you know dang, what's the other, I can't think of my bills.
You got
Oh,
like
and then my car
utilities or anything?
payment,
Yeah.
my car
Insurance. Yeah.
insurance, um groceries and gas, which right now I don't drive at all, so it's like nil. It's mostly just groceries. Um and maybe one other thing that I'm missing, but other than that, those are like I don't pay like for my own cell phone bill. My parents pay for that. So, other than that, that's like kind of where my budget is. Oh, and my credit card bill. I currently don't pay any student loans because I'm still in school. And also, like, they're in forbearance or whatever because of COVID. So I don't have to pay those or account for those at all. So, yeah, that's pretty much just everything that I count in my budget. Um, I do have a credit card, and on my credit card I put all of my reoccurring monthly subscriptions on
Yeah,
there. So
that's
like
smart.
Netflix, Hulu, Nintendo Online, um, Patreon, and something else probably. But all of that goes on my credit card, and I pay that, and I pay from like my checking to my credit
Mm-hmm.
card every month. Um,
Yeah.
I personally pay the minimum, and then whatever else is left, if I have some money, um, I do always have like a surplus, like a savings every month, but and I that goes towards my credit card, but that's how I work it out personally. But I don't have like an entertainment or miscellaneous because that is way too in flux for me.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime like if I have, I don't know, I guess my mindset of it is if okay, I think my mindset of it is that I usually have a savings goal. So like I know every month how much I want to save, and then um okay, let me back up really quickly. Okay. So every week I get paid. So like I know each week what bill is going to get paid. So every week I know, okay, I this is the net amount of money that is going to come out of my um that's going to come out of my bank account, and this is what's going to be left over. Now, if I want to go get my nails done or blah 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 or whatever, then I'm like, okay, maybe I can go like this week because I'll have like an extra amount of money and whatever. Um when I do like weekly savings goal pretty much because I get paid weekly, so I have like a certain number that I come up with that I'm like, okay, this is the amount of money that I'll have left over. This is how much I want to save. And usually I'll have like $20 in flux for the week to be like, maybe I'll save it, maybe I'll just use it, but it's wiggle room for me if I want to use it for extra stuff. I don't have a particular, but I guess technically I do have a budget for extra shit, but it's more in flux for me than I'm probably over explaining it, but it's a lot more like it varies every month how much I'm going to spend
Mm-hmm.
miscellaneously. And my miscellaneous spending I keep in check because I'm aware of like how much I want to save all the time, but I also would rather not know how much I've spent miscellaneously.
Yeah.
I've, I don't. I might be over explaining it, but that's the way I check on that. I don't have like a particular amount of money that I'm like, okay, this is how much I can spend, um, this month because I feel like I never know. Like I don't know like as much as I'm a planner, sometimes, I also like to honor like how I feel like in the moment. So I always try to account for that. And,
Yeah.
I make enough money that I'm able to do that and still be fine. So, and
Yeah.
my miscellaneous stuff that I do is not like super crazy. Like I'm not going to Atlantic City every week. Like it's nothing like that. It's just like, oh, like maybe I want to order DoorDash, or oh, maybe I want to go get my nails done, or oh, maybe I want to like buy that one thing from Target or whatever. Like it's just a buffer in between like what I know I have to spend and what I know I want to save. And then there's like a kind of like a gray area that's like, okay, maybe like you miscalculated a bill and so you have like a little extra money.
Well, okay. So I think that was great. I want to back up and touch on a few things that you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
because I think that's some big brain shit that you came up with. I mean,
Oh.
obviously, I know you didn't come up with it, but it makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really really good practice. So one of the things that I heard you mention was you have like you said I think like $20 in flux every month,
Every
um,
week.
or every week. Okay, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
every week where you're like, okay, well maybe that's my extra money, that's like my treat money or something like that, right? I think that's excellent because I find that from what I've read and seen where people are budgeting hardcore, they forget that things are going to come up
Mm-hmm.
that are not accounted for in their budget, and you have to have that psychological break from the monotony. You have to be able to reward yourself for doing good work, and you also have to be able to give yourself a break and let yourself have those,
Mm-hmm.
random items or one-off things that are not accounted for in your budget. So I think it's really important, if you can, of course, because obviously budgeting can be very difficult for a lot of people. If you can, try to give yourself a little bit of a buffer in your budget every month, and be okay. Don't say, "Oh, I went over $100 this month." If you can afford to go over $100 in your budgeting, that's fine. Like don't
Mm-hmm.
beat yourself up over it, because when it comes down to it, and maybe you're shopping with your kid and your kid's like, "I really want this toy, I really want this toy, really," you don't want to have to say no every time if you don't have to, right? Obviously, not everyone is in that position to have that thing where they can let it slide. But if you can, you've got to give yourself a little bit of a break every month, just to keep things going, because that's how people I think burn out about over this stuff really easily, is they get so caught up in the numbers. And I've seen it where people get like divorced over this stuff. They're like, well, my husband never lets me spend anything extra, we always have to do the budget. If we go over $5, he's
Mm-hmm.
mad at me all day, blah, blah. You don't want to function like that. That's not healthy at all. You have to be able to give yourself a little bit of grace and be okay with it, because that's how you keep things moving. It's like how when people are dieting and they say, "Oh, I give myself a cheat meal every week," or something like that. That's how you keep it going, because one, you have something to look forward to maybe, and two, you have that mental break where you say, "Okay, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not worried about counting calories right now. I'm just worried about enjoying myself and knowing that I'm doing a great job and this is my reward." The other thing you mentioned way back that I thought was really interesting, and this is something that I was going to bring up later, was you automate your bill paying, and you do it
Mm-hmm.
through your credit card, which I think is one, is a really great way to build credit, especially if you get nervous about using a credit card, because I know a lot of people there, obviously there's a stigma with credit cards where it's like, oh, you're just gonna go out of control and you're gonna spend too much, and then you'll max out your cards and you'll be stuck paying it off forever, blah blah blah. Yeah, a lot, it happens to a lot of people. But if you know from the jump how you're going to use your card, and why and when you're going to use your card, you're golden. So what Celeste was saying she does is she will set up I'm guessing an auto payment
Mm-hmm.
on those things where she doesn't really have to think about it. She knows Netflix is going to charge her, what is it, like $12 now or whatever. I don't know how
Oh,
much it is.
13. It keeps
13,
going
yeah,
up every year. I'm pissed.
I know. But she knows, at least for this year, she knows
Mm-hmm.
Netflix is going to charge her $13. That's going to be charged on her credit card at a certain time of the month. She knows her insurance payment is cost this much. That's going to go to her credit card every month. Her, whatever else she has to set up on there. She knows those expenses, so she knows what her balance is going to be from those expenses. And so then what she does is she takes her cash from her checking account, or maybe her savings account, and she pays that balance more or less. Or I know you mentioned you pay the minimum. That's fine too.
Mm-hmm.
But the main point is she's getting her bills paid. She's not making late payments, and she's building credit because she's using her cards and she's using them responsibly. So that's something, and I think we can talk about this maybe in another episode where we focus a little more on credit cards
Yeah,
and
we
things
can
like that, because
definitely do
we
that.
definitely will. But yeah, that's super super easy way to make sure you're using your credit cards and you're being responsible. Set up those auto payments. Even if you don't have credit cards, you can do that with your debit cards. For most things these days, you can set up automatic online payments. You can do that, and yeah, just make sure you keep track of the schedule. So I know, like I get emails and text reminders. I know on the 14th and the 15th, my credit card bills come through. So I know how much goes out every month for that. And I know, my insurance and stuff like that. It's just very predictable and very easy to stay organized when you have things automated and you know exactly what's going out. So, yeah, those are two things I thought were really, really good. And I think you kind of started to move into the third question that we had when you were talking about your savings plan.
Yeah.
I know you kind of did like a rough overview of that. But I'll mention mine as well because I think it's pretty simplistic. I don't really have a savings plan. That's what I will say. Because my partner and I have gone through different times, especially in the past couple years, where we've had a lot of excess income because we've been, having a lower cost of living and able to put away a lot of money. We've also had times where things are very tight. So, yeah. So, basically what I would say about my savings plan or lack thereof is what I do is at the end of the month, right after my last paycheck for the month comes in, and after I've already made sure I'm good on my rent, I know how much money's going out for my rent, I will take whatever I was able to keep in my checking account for that month, and I'll just move it to my savings account. It goes to a completely different bank. I transfer it out, and it just sits in my savings account untouched. It's a high yield savings account, so it does generate a few cents every month, which I don't know. We take that how you will. It's not really much, but that's kind of the best you can get on a generic savings account. But yeah, basically, if I have $300 or $400 left over in my checking account, and then I get paid that next day, and I'll kind of like refresh my money, I'll take those $300 or $400, put them in my savings account, and then I've got a few $100 extra that I've been able to put away. So I don't really think of it too much, but it's always in the back of my mind. Like, the more I can keep in my checking account month to month, the more I'm gonna get in my savings account at the end of
I guess I'm the inverse of that. I have a savings goal. Like, I know I have things that I'm trying to save for. So the first thing that everyone should be saving for is an emergency fund. How much you want in there is totally up to you. There are people that say 3 months of your total income. There are people who say 3 months of your total expenses. There are people who say 6 months, a year, blah, 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 whatever. I personally do 3 months of my total expenses, not my total income. Which is, to me, that's what's comfortable to me. So at least I know, like, if I lose my job or something for 3 months, at least I can still, like, pay my bills or whatever. That was my first savings goal, and if anything comes out of that, that is something that I replace first before I do anything else. So, like, I talked about, like, I have, like, weekly savings goals. I put, money to all the money towards that or whatever. My emergency savings fund also is in, like, another separate bank. And so there's that. And then if I'm not putting money towards my emergency fund, if it's, like, fully funded and I'm okay with it, then I put my savings into, like, another account, and that I'm using to, like, try to get, save money for going back to school. So those are, like, my savings plans right now. When I had to move, I will say, I'm going to jinx myself by saying this, but every time my emergency fund is fully funded, it gets depleted as soon as it gets funded.
Yep.
And it's annoying, but also it is so good. It is such a relief because that there is money and you don't have to
Yes.
struggle as much if you were living paycheck to paycheck, or if you
Mm-hmm.
were using up all if you were just using all your money and you weren't budgeting and you weren't saving. So cuz I in 2020 I used up my emergency fund twice in 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used
Same.
it up, I funded it, used it up, funded it again, and used it up again. Like, and it
Yeah.
was and
Yeah.
it was annoying at the time, and I was just like, why do I have to dip into this? But it was a lifesaver because I was pulling money from my emergency fund. I was still able to pay my bills and do the things that I needed to do and still have some sort of buffer. So I would highly suggest, even if it's like $100, have that as a starting point, or like 50
Mm-hmm.
bucks. Having some sort of money put away is really really good. I would say, if you're doing your budget and you're trying to start a savings plan and you're just like, what am I saving for, start an emergency fund, because you never know. There's a statistic out there somewhere in the ether on the internet that says that like a very small percentage of
Yes.
Americans actually have like an additional like
Yes.
$1,000 if something, at least if
Mm-hmm.
something was to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think
That's
it's like
scary.
less than 20% or something like that.
It's very scary. That's
Yeah.
very true. That's very true.
And I understand that, and like we've come back time and time again, back to this, during this conversation, that not everyone is able to make enough money to have a large emergency savings fund. But even if it's like $100, because you can, what if what if your pet gets sick, what if you get sick, or
Car
and
breaks down and
yeah,
you
the
got to
car,
make sure you're getting to work because you'll lose
yeah,
your job if you're not to work on time and there's
yeah,
no public transit and nobody to give you a ride.
mm-hmm,
You got to get your car repaired or buy a new car. Like that's the stuff that we're talking about.
yeah,
Or in my case, my freaking e-fund gets obliterated every time we have to move because
same,
you had to
yeah,
pay deposits, you got to maybe buy new furniture, you got to pay for moving services, all
mm-hmm,
that stuff. It just it wipes it out. But having that money there is amazing, and it's really once you get into the rhythm of um, putting money away towards your e-fund or emergency fund,
mm-hmm,
it's very easy, and you won't miss that money. I think that's what people say. You don't miss the money. That's also what people say, or kind of what people mean when they say pay yourself first. You got to cover your own stuff first
mm-hmm,
before you um spend on other people, or before you say, oh, I'm gonna buy this new thing or whatever. Make sure your own situation is covered. Make sure
mm-hmm,
you got your bills paid, and make sure you got, if you can, of course, you've got some money to stash away in your e-fund. Yeah, and I forgot what I was going to say, but I think, one of the other points I was going to make was it doesn't have to be in another bank or anything like that. I think that's just something weird that Celeste and I both share, is that
yeah,
we both happen to send our money away. Um, obviously it can stay in a different account, but the main thing is you absolutely need to separate it from what you currently have in your checking account. I
yeah,
think it's really important to put it somewhere else. It can be in the same, I think most bank checking accounts, general accounts, come with a savings account,
mm-hmm,
with like, no strings. Um, Even if you just put it in there, just have it separate, because you want to just always have that balance in there if you can afford to.
mm-hmm,
And I think, saying, "Oh, I'm just going to leave $1,000 in my checking account every month," it's just not going to happen that way. You have to be a little disciplined in that sense, and make sure that make sure that you're seeing your money move and get placed in that other bucket, and two, being able to keep track of it a lot simpler that way. And
mm-hmm,
like Celeste says, 3 months is what a lot of people will say to shoot for 3 to 6 months of expenses. Literally after you count up how much your bills and groceries and stuff, like general stuff, just like everything you need to be good.
Mm-hmm.
None of that extra stuff. After all that, multiply that by 3 months, 6 months, or something. That's your number you should be shooting for if you can. Um, but another I think like a pre-milestone to shoot for before that even, a lot of people will say just try to get $500 to $1,000 in there, and that will
Mm-hmm.
cover things like if your tire blows out and you got to buy a new set of tires. That's $1,000 right there in some cases, or like Celeste said, your pet gets sick. A lot of people don't have pet insurance, and going to the vet is not cheap. It's not
Mm-hmm.
cheap. So yeah, that's yeah, I think that's all I wanted to say on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I had something else. Oh, I also will say that we are not perfect at this budgeting and
No,
savings every month.
absolutely not.
It is there are some months where I don't save anything because I just wanted to blow all my money.
Yeah.
And that's fine because it's my money, and also like I have the resources to do that. Like I would, and there's some months where I'm very strict about it and I'm like, yes, like I didn't really want to buy anything or nothing, I didn't have the miscellaneous month or whatever, and so everything went into savings. Or there I when I moved in September, when did I move? I moved in November,
Yeah.
and I had to pay two rents
Mm-hmm.
because I had to leave my old space because my neighbors were not great. And I was still on the hook for rent until I could find someone to take over the lease. So for 3 months, I
Yep.
had to pay two rents. And I had my emergency fund, so I was able to do that. But I couldn't, I also couldn't save any money because I was paying two rents, like, and I couldn't save, like, so I lost out three on 3 months of savings. And so there are times when you have to just you have to rework your budget. I rework my budgets, um and go over them like once a month or at least twice a month,
Okay.
just to like see, like, oh, I'm on track with like paying this off, or um maybe I got a little bit extra cash, especially with the stimulus and stuff like that, stimulus checks. Sometimes I get a refund from school because of the grants and stuff like that I get. Um, or I know this month I'm supposed to be getting like my, oh, what's it called? My rent thing back, my deposit back from my old place. So like, you rework your budgets and be like, okay, like this money, maybe there was something that like I wanted to buy or something, and I can be like, okay, I'll pay for it with this, and then the rest of the money I'll like put into the savings account or whatever. And every it takes time. I will say it takes time for us, for it took time for me to get to this point where I am right now, where I'm a lot more comfortable with my budget and I'm more comfortable with my money. But like if you were talking to me like 3 4 years ago, I was like,
Oh
ah,
Lord, no.
like I've had some, like, I think I talked
Yeah.
about this before on our last like episode about finance. I was making some blunders, even though I was making more money than I had been 3 4 years ago, and I was still making a lot of money blunders. Like I was not saving at all. I wasn't doing any of this stuff, and it was just like I had
Mm-hmm.
to really, I've come a very long way, and I'm extremely proud
Same.
of myself. And I'm I think it's great that I'm now able to like talk about my experience and stuff like that. But start small and give yourself a lot of grace, because especially if this is new to you and you're just like, dang, like I don't even know, like you're trying to figure it out, and it's just like, oh, it's too much, it's emotional, it's hard. But you know give yourself a grace, and just like work on it little by little, and before you know it, you're gonna be like, oh, this is nothing, like It's really not that
Exactly.
big of a deal. Yeah.
And that is exactly, I was just about to make a similar point. Um if you I would say this, if you've been considering trying to buckle down and get a hold of your finances lately, now is a great time to start. It doesn't matter your current work situation, your current income situation. Now is just a really good time to start,
Mm-hmm.
because for most people, we're still in quarantine. We're still not doing things at the same level as we used to. It's a great time to wrangle in your spending and stuff, so that when things do open up and your situation does improve, and maybe you're able to travel more, or you're able to go out to restaurants and stuff again and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy yourself, and you want to have extra money for that, you already have the discipline.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll be so easy to say, oh well, I wasn't even spending money on takeout before, but or I wasn't spending money on restaurants and drinks at the bar and stuff before, but now it's like I have the choice. So I think
Mm-hmm.
now it's, if you, I guess, progress through over the next few months, you'll have that discipline there where you can say, oh yeah, I really don't need to go out every weekend, or oh yeah, I'll go out every weekend, but I'm not gonna spend like I used to, or I'm not gonna uh I'll pregame, right? I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what an example a lot of people use just to save money at the bar. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
don't go to the bar and buy all your drinks there.
Mm-hmm.
Get your drinks in you before you even leave, or something.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you have uh,
Responsibly.
travel, yeah.
Yeah.
If you have your travel or transit prearranged, of course. But stuff like that, you'll be able to make those sort of money and cost cutting decisions a lot easier if you start now, while things are still relatively slow and options are kind of like limited. So that's just my
Mm-hmm.
thought on it. And I think just over the past year, I've just really been able to um, cut through a lot of the crap that I used to do, like just spending just because I had it, and impulse buying. I don't even I I'll keep stuff in my Amazon cart for like months now, because
Mm-hmm.
I just don't have that same need or want to just buy stuff as soon as I see it, just because I got the money. Like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
even bother with that stuff anymore. And I think it's just really just came from a place of necessity, with not knowing how my job and my partner's
Mm-hmm.
job would work out, and during the height of COVID, and also just because it's you don't really have much else to do. I don't have I didn't have my same travel fund like I used to have, because we weren't traveling. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, again, I think it's just a really good time to start while things are still pretty slow, and you don't have too many outside obligations to distract you. If you so I got one question, then we'll go to our last one and wrap up. um if you can you give our audience three of some of your favorite budgeting tips or tricks, or just, I guess, maybe three things, three of your own secrets.
I don't even
They might
know.
not be secrets, but
um, what do I have?
three pieces of advice, I guess.
Mm, okay. Mm, okay. Well, I guess my first one is um. This is more related to like the credit thing,
Mm-hmm.
but um, one thing that helped I started putting like small I talked about this, but I started putting small reoccurring charges on my credit card instead of
Yeah.
putting them on my saving on my regular cash account, like checking account, because it helps it, like you talked about before, it helps your credit when you have like a reoccurring charge. You don't have to always think about um specifically using your credit card so that your score can go up, because that's how I got my score up.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Uh Making it hard for you to take large sums of money out. So that's why I have two separate um accounts. Well, I have more than two accounts, but I have my main savings account is not with my main checking account.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have to, so if I want to like spend money on something, I
Yeah.
have to wait like the 2 days for it to transfer between
Yep.
accounts. And I'm
Yep.
like, do I really want to wait the 2 days? And that curbs a lot of that curbed a lot of the impulse buying,
Mm-hmm.
because a large sum of my money wasn't in my right next to
It's not immediately available.
yeah, it's not immediately available, yeah. So I guess it's 2 3. I don't know. I guess uh,
I definitely put her on the spot with this one. I wasn't
yeah.
trying to, but I figured
No,
you
you're
would have
good.
at least a few things for people to consider.
I will say figure out what you can live with and what you can live without. When I started my budget, and especially when I started living alone, I was like, oh, shit costs a lot. Like, bills cost a
Yeah.
lot. Like, because I had been like, I had roommates when I was living in apartments outside of dorms. So I was like, everything was split. So it was a little bit
Yeah.
cheaper than when you're on your own. Because once you're on your own,
Whew.
it's just you. It's a
That
one
shit hits
income
you like a
household.
truck. Oh my gosh. Hits you like a truck.
Huh? Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
said it hits you like a truck, yeah. I just
yeah.
had a flashback to my first rent payment. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is really
So,
happening.
so figure out what you're willing to pay for. But so I was like, okay, well, when I look for apartments, I'm like, okay, this is how much I'm willing to pay, and
Mm-hmm.
like what are like stuff included and whatever. But like the biggest thing I have that I don't know if a lot of people know this, but my parents know this and they make fun of me for it all the time, is that I don't really use my heating and cooling system because it's the one thing in your apartment or in your place that takes up the most electricity. And
Yes.
if you pay for electricity and it's not included in your rent, that is most likely the one of your highest bills.
Mm-hmm.
And because I don't use the heating and cooling system like very often, like I mostly use it in the winter, but even then it's like it's not very often. Um my bill on average is $50 a month.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and my parents think I'm crazy because but also their bill is like almost $200 a month. So I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, see, I don't pay that. Like, but those are things that I'm willing to forego because I want to save as much as possible, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
believe that that's a expense that I want to pay. So yeah, that is, know what you're willing to. My dad calls it sacrifice, but I hate that word
Hmm.
because I don't know. Sacrifice is such a
Yeah.
bad thing,
Yeah. The
and I'm
negative
just like, it's not a
connotation.
sacrifice to me. Like, it's just a okay, like this is what I'm doing and I'm okay with
Mm-hmm.
that. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. But yeah, so but yeah, those I guess that's like my third thing. Like, just know what you're willing to what's worth it to you in your budget,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
what is a priority to you and what's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are great. And I think I'll kind of piggyback off your last one, with knowing what you're willing to, I guess change up or something. Um, I would say be open to experiment with alternatives, and by that
Mm-hmm.
I mean the easiest um, example I can give is like coffee. I there's a lot of people who just say, hey, look, I can't live without my Starbucks. I love my Starbucks. Okay, but if it's costing you $5 a day to get your cup in the morning on the way to work, what might it cost you to just buy Starbucks coffee and make it at home with your own ingredients? That way you have total control over how it looks, what it tastes like, how much extra whipped cream or, sweetener or whatever you put into it, and you're still saving money. So I think, you know, I'm noticing a lot more people becoming a lot more comfortable with making their, they call it like kind of like specialty coffee drinks at home, because you realize very quickly that the savings add up, right? If you're spending $25 to $30 a week on these cups that you're just going through in the morning just to get by because you need that sugar rush and that caffeine rush, but you can make it at home and it'll cost $25 to $30 a month instead. That's a lot of money you're able to put away. And again, you get full control over the product, right? If you are like, oh, I can't afford a venti, I always get, I don't even know the damn sizes because I just don't buy Starbucks coffee. What's the middle one? The
Grande.
Grande? Yeah, Grande. Yeah, it's like if you're only buying the medium size because the big size is, just cost too much, you could probably do it at home and make a big size every day if that's what you want to do. So yeah, if you want to do that, easiest thing to do, look up how to do it on YouTube, look up, copycat recipes. Same with fast food. If you're going to I don't know, Chick-fil-A every week because you really like their grilled chicken club sandwich or something, try to make it at home. Just experiment with it, because if anything, even if it doesn't turn out okay, of course you can always go back to what you know. But if it does work out well, then you can definitely save some money and also have a lot of fun, figuring out those interesting ways to save money on that type of stuff. And I think another example too would be like kids entertainment. I think this is like very clear in quarantine where, you're stuck at home with your kids and they're like, I gotta do something. I'm sure most parents have had to come up with a lot of new ways to keep their kids entertained, apart from just popping them in front of a screen. So you're building stuff with them, you're playing outside with them and stuff like that. Those are also cost saving ways. And I encourage you to continue that if it's working for you and your kids are happy about it. Second thing I would say is specifically grocery shopping. It's okay to shop at multiple stores to get what you want if that means you're going to save money. And there's a convenience factor, of course, where it's like, yeah, I can get everything I want at one store. But if that one store is Whole Foods and you go there just because they have your favorite quinoa or something, then maybe you should just go to Whole Foods for quinoa and get everything else at a store that has lower costs, right? If you can, right? And then on the other side of things, if you're finding, let's say you shop at Walmart exclusively, right? But you're like, oh my gosh, I hate this. I don't know. Let's use coffee again. Let's say I hate the quality of coffee at at Walmart. I want some higher quality coffee. Okay, maybe you get your coffee from somewhere else, but you continue shopping at Walmart because they have the best prices and for the majority of what you get, right? So again, I think that's just a way to, I guess, make sure that you're happy and satisfied with the groceries that you buy. Because I think if you were like, oh, I shop at Whole Foods or I shop at this other high-end store, maybe like Trader Joe's or something because they have my favorite such and whatever, but you're still spending a bunch of money on other things that you can get elsewhere, you're not going to be happy because you're spending too much money there. But if you can split it up and say, well, I'm saving $50 by going to this other store, maybe you go to Aldi or you go to a discount store or something. I mean, even Dollar Tree has some really good grocery items for $1, right? If you're splitting it up and you're saving those pricey trips for those particular items that you're just really fond about, then do that. If you have the time and the means to do so, do that, because it's gonna save you in the long run. It's gonna make you stay excited about buying those quality items that you really enjoy, and it's gonna also make you excited because you're saving money in the long run. I don't know, it's kind of a weird a weird one, but I would just say, along with experimenting with different products, experiment with your grocery shopping. Don't just stick to one store just because that's where you've always shopped. Try to mix it up and see where you can cut costs there. And I guess I'm trying to think of a third one. Dang, I should have been more prepared on this one because this is my own question.
Your question.
I know. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. This is my other thing, and this will be a good way to follow up with an episode soon about credit cards. If you're starting to gear up and starting to plan trips for later this year into next year, and you don't already do this, really try to look into what they call travel hacking or credit card hacking. And again, we'll do an episode really soon where we talk about this in detail. But the short of it is, you do not need to pay full price for pretty much anything that you do while you travel. You just don't have to. So where you have people saying, "Oh, you're gonna fly all the way to Japan? That costs $1,500." It shouldn't have to. Mm-hmm. If you're smart about it, if you know you want to go to Japan, you just you have some time to plan or something, you can absolutely save money in every corner of your spending on your trip. So what I would say is, if you're really excited about travel, or you're really excited about taking trips, even if it's domestic, even if you're just going to the next state over or something, look into travel hacking, because you can save money on hotels, you can save money on flights, car rentals, food, experiences, all that stuff. Like, there's no reason why a $5,000 trip should cost $5,000. If you can save $1,000, you can do that. And I think it's really, if you're kind of nerdy like me and you like researching that kind of stuff, you can go really deep in the weeds on that and find some really interesting stuff that's going to save you a lot of money. And it's stuff that you can repeat every single trip. You can always save money on a rental car by doing certain tricks. You can always save money on hotels by doing certain things, and so on. So my last tip for budgeting and saving would be, take some time. If you're a traveler or something, take some time. Even if you're just traveling to, you say you visit your parents once a year or something, just take some time to do some research and look up different ways to cut costs. You don't have to pay what's given on the screen. You can always find a way to make the total cost less. So, yeah, those are my tips too. So
yeah, those are some good tips. I hope some of you guys learned some things. I learned some things too. I guess, okay, so our last question is, what, to kind of wrap it up, what are the minimum accounts that everyone should have, at least? I honestly,
for budgeting and saving.
Yeah, checking and savings for sure.
Oh, I meant for budgeting and saving.
Yeah, for budgeting and savings, yeah. Checking account, savings account, at least. If you have a job, you probably already have a checking account, hopefully.
Yeah.
If you don't, I know there's certain stipulations, like if you're what is it called? Like if you just got out of jail, or maybe if something happens, like sometimes like certain people, like if you do sex work, sometimes you can't get a bank account. But so I know that I don't know too much about that, so I would say do your own research to make sure you know like how you can get a bank account. But for people who have regular schmegular jobs, have at least a checking account. Sometimes it comes with a savings account. Depending on the bank, sometimes you need at least like a minimum of $25 to put in that savings account. So there's that. Those are the two minimum. I know Amber and I talked about, we also have like different banks. That is like a little bit more, I don't want to say that's sophisticated, but that's like a little bit like intermediate. I personally have a big bank, and then I have a credit union.
Yeah. Really
having a credit union is a really good idea because credit unions give you better rates for loans.
Absolutely. We're talking like car loans,
house loans as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Personal loans.
A lot of,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a lot of people will recommend opening an account with a credit union before you buy a car because they'll tend to walk you through things a lot easier because they just have the time and the ability to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Credit unions are very intimate because they're typically local. And yeah, of course they can get you better rates than a big bank, or if you're trying to get credit through the dealership or something like that, you definitely can get better deals typically.
Yeah.
So yeah, credit unions are really good.
Yeah.
And of course they have like regular checking and savings accounts that you can open with them.
Yeah. So that's what I have. And then I have like brokerage accounts and all that other stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
that's separate episodes, future episodes, but yeah, the but checking and savings are like the two minimum. I think if you have those two things, getting having a credit union and opening account, a checking and savings there as well is a, a good next step to that.
Mm-hmm.
After that you could also, another option is to get an online only account. There's Ally is a
Yeah,
really
that's what I
popular
use.
one. Those are accounts where they don't have any brick and mortar buildings or stores, and it's just completely online only. There's no card attached to it either, and it's just an account with your money
Seriously,
inside
just
of
a
it
money
in
management
the
account.
ether. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and a lot of people have that so that they can't like pull money out of it. It takes like, I think it takes even longer between like regular banks to like pull them. I think it takes like 5 to 7 days or something like that to
So
transfer money,
yeah,
something like that.
sometimes.
Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think it depends, but there's no card attached to it also, which is a lot of people's thing. So you can't just be like swiping the money. You have to transfer it out to spend it.
Yeah.
So that's another good way. Like if you are, trying to curb your spending, that is something that you can do. So
Yes. Yeah.
so yeah, other than that, I think that's all I have for this segment, to be totally honest. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to tack on a couple more things
Mhm.
though. As far as budgeting apps, because we might get some questions on that, especially since am lazy and I know there's other people who are lazy and want to be lazy.
Yeah.
Some apps and websites that I recommend, uh, household name, definitely mint.com, Mint. We'll try to link these in the show notes, I think.
Mhm.
Mint.com, they are owned by Intuit, the tax service. So it's a big brand, big company. But with that, you get, I think, added security and kind of peace of mind because the pros are kind of managing this program. So they do that thing that Celeste mentioned where they track your spending. So if you decide to link your checking account and
Mhm.
some of your other accounts, maybe your credit card accounts and stuff, they can, when they see a charge go through, they're able to grab the data on that charge and post it for you centrally in Mint. So it kind of in a way allows you to just look at Mint to do
Mhm.
most of your money management, but I still would encourage you to obviously pay attention to what's going on in your individual accounts. But that's just like a good way, or I guess a good program that does that. And with that, they offer tools like budgeting tools and help articles and just like a lot of information and resources to be better with your money. They can track things like your car payments and your mortgage and other things like that too. And so I don't personally use Mint anymore. I actually use a program called Personal Capital, which we'll also try to link in the show notes.
Okay.
It's set up very similarly, but I like that they show you your running net worth. And that to me, it's crazy because if you don't have a positive net worth, they will definitely say, okay, you're negative, girl. Like,
Dang.
they will definitely say, you owe more money than you currently have available. So, but I like, again, they offer similar services, resources, budgeting help, and they track your spending if you want them to. But they also show things in a breakdown. So they'll show your income accounts versus your credit accounts versus your loan accounts. So student loans, car loans, things like that. They'll show your mortgage, investment accounts, all that stuff will get linked and categorized for you. So you can see, okay, well, I owe, 28,000 in student loans, but I have $50,000 saved. So my net worth is, what is that like? Oh, math is hard. Uh, whatever that is, 50 minus 28.
Yeah.
Damn, why do I not know that? 32, yes. Yeah, so they would show, that's not 32, is it? Oh my God, it's not 32.
I don't remember the numbers.
That's so embarrassing. That's so embarrassing. Okay, we're going to forget that I don't know what 50 minus 28 is. But again, I'm lazy, so math is hard. Whatever. But anyways, they offer that. And one other app that I would recommend is called EveryDollar. And that's actually owned by a company called Ramsey Solutions. Last name being Ramsey, first name being Dave. Dave Ramsey is a personal finance hothead. He is known very well in the personal finance community. But I would say take everything he says with a grain of salt, because he tends to be, he's a very old school dude. And so his advice tends to be kind of outdated, especially about things like credit and renting versus buying. So what I would say, either way, his app is great. EveryDollar is great. You can use it for free or a premium version. The free app does everything you want it to do for basic budgeting. It's a lot more simplistic and in my opinion, easier to use, because it's just very bare bones, but it looks nice. So, but yeah, if you wanted to look into more information about Dave Ramsey, he's got a very popular YouTube channel because he has a radio show that they post videos of his radio show. And he also has some websites and books and things like that. Yeah. But again, take what he says with a grain of salt, because he's not a modern personal finance guy. He's old school. He's done everything the same, from what I understand, since like the 80s. So, but his fundamentals and his overall, mindset of, you gotta escape debt and to be free, that I think is very, very true. So again, we'll link some of these details in the show notes. But yeah, that's all I had on that subject there.
I'm not linking Dave Ramsey, but y'all can go research him.
Yeah, he's kind of, honestly, he's kind of a dick, but
he is a whole...
He tends to be very,
he's an ass.
People will call into his show all the time and ask for information and ask for help. And he tends to bypass their current situation. And he has the same canned response for anyone that's in bad debt. It's, you got to live off of rice and beans. You got to stop spending all this extra stuff. And you got to get out of debt, blah, blah, blah. I totally agree. Yes, it's important to get out of debt. But you shouldn't deplete your quality of life even further just to pay off things a couple years earlier.
And also, I don't agree with that. It's a case, not all...
Now we're on a Dave Ramsey rant.
I know, because also, like, not all debt is bad. And there has to... Everyone's situation is different. That's why, like, you have to... When you ask someone for advice, you need to, like, it has to be a one-on-one situation, especially when it comes to money, because your money is different than someone else's money. There are a lot of general rules, like we're talking about with like budgeting and savings that makes sense, but like everyone's financial situation is different, because literally every human is different, and it's not gonna always be the same. That's why I don't like Dave Ramsey. Also, Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman, the way that I hated the Susie Orman show when I was growing up, and my parents just loved her. And because why are you constantly yelling at people? I don't like the yelling financial bullshit. Like, don't be yelling at me, because I will fight you.
Don't embarrass people further. They already realize they're in a bad situation. That's why they're calling you for help. So
yeah, and you're just and it's for TV. It's for because that's what the people want. They want to see other people be embarrassed. Like, and it's gross and
make
disgusting.
Themselves feel better, but
yeah, but I spinning that into people that I actually like to listen to about finances and stuff. Um, Currently, my favorite. So when I started doing finance stuff, I mostly listened to podcasts because I love a good podcast, and also like reading finance books. I'm like, so
Yeah, it's very
I
dry.
that's not the genre that I like to read. So I was just like, I was just listening to podcasts. The ones that I will list them below is I'll link them below as well, but Stacking Benjamins is a really good one. Brown Ambition, they're two black women talking about money. Love Mandy, love Tiffany. Tiffany the Budgetista, she's amazing, awesome,
Mm-hmm.
great.
Mm-hmm.
She is like the person that I learned about, like, who taught me credit and like money stuff. And so I love her. I love them. They have a great podcast. Um who else? I think Her Money Matters is the other one. Oh, Paula Pant is another one. Love Paula Pant. She's great. She's fun. Um who else? I can't think of the other ones, but I will put them in the show notes, and I would say I would highly recommend you guys check them out. Um some of so Stacking Benjamins I don't listen to a ton anymore. Just because it's like a bunch of white people. And like as much as like some of their information was like really good, sometimes like the jargon gets
There
too
can be a
much to me,
disconnect.
and I'm
Yeah.
just like, this is too not relatable. Like, I don't care about this kind of finance stuff. But Brown Ambition is the one that I listen to the most. I listen to them pretty much like every week, and they're great. So I highly recommend that. And all the other ones I list, like, I do recommend as well. But yeah, those are people that they are nice, they are kind people, they are not yelling at you about your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
They want you to do well, they want you to succeed, they're understanding, they answer questions, they're nurturing, they're kind, all of the things that Dave Ramsey and Susie Orman are not.
Yeah, no,
So
I
yeah.
agree. Only reason I mentioned Dave Ramsey is because his app is really
Yeah.
good. It's very good, and there's no, you can't see any real affiliation to Dave in the app. There's, I think, a link or two to some of his other products, but that's about it.
Yeah,
The
that makes
app
sense.
itself is very, very basic and very user friendly.
Yeah.
Because his audience is a lot of people who just really have never gotten a grip on their financials, and they need to start from level zero. So,
Yeah.
yeah. With that being said, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, Celeste, what's got you hot?
What's got me hot? Dang.
What's got you
Actually,
hot?
don't even
Oh, besides Dave Ramsey,
know.
because
Oh,
she just went
LOL.
off. I was not ready for that.
I guess what's got me hot is that I have 3 more weeks and I'm done with
There you
this
go.
major. I feel like I don't know what happened at the end of March, but my brain is just like, yeah, we can't do this no more. And I'm just like, but I have just like a few more things to do, and my brain is just like, no.
No.
Like, no.
I said what I said.
And I'm just like, but I'm trying to upkeep my grades. Like, I'm trying to, push my GPA up. Like, I just need, my brain's just like, I'm just like, so yeah, I have 3 more weeks. I'm really excited. Yeah, I still haven't gotten my grade back on my drawing. I'm probably gonna see it tomorrow, but I hope. But yeah, so that'll be fun. Yeah, I don't really, I don't know. I'm not like mad about anything really, or anything that I would like say on the podcast. I'm gonna be totally honest. But yeah, yeah, that's really it. What's got you hot, Amber?
Okay, I got a positive one because I'm in a good mood. I'm trying to stay in a good mood.
Nice.
this was something I was talking to Celeste about earlier, but I just stumbled across this lovely little show on Hulu called Caribbean Life, and now I want to move to the Caribbean. So thanks HGTV for implanting that in my brain. No, it apart from the show, well, I would say I went to watch the show because I was just browsing around Hulu. I was just looking for something quick to watch for a little bit, kill some time. And I was like, all right, I'll bite. Because I used to watch House Hunters. I don't really watch that stuff anymore. I don't have cable. But, I used to watch House Hunters and stuff. And I've always been interested in real estate, of course. But I came across that show, and it's like House Hunters, but better because they actually focus on the area more than House Hunters and some of those other shows. With House Hunters, they focus on the property. Yeah, they'll say, okay, we're in Austin, Texas, and that's about the extent that you get. Maybe they talk about which section of the city they're in. But in the show Caribbean Life, it's a similar format where they take people to see a handful of houses, and obviously it's kind of scripted because I think, from my understanding, is they've already bought the house and they just kind of tour a few other properties that are similar in their price range or whatever. So it's kind of scripted in that way, but it really doesn't come off that way. But they do a really good job of showing how things are on the island. They interview locals. They pop in all these little pieces of trivia. And apart from that, I've learned that there's so many other islands in the Caribbean. If I think of a lot of Americans think of the Caribbean, they think of Jamaica, they think of the Bahamas, they think of Puerto Rico, DR, Haiti, Cuba, and maybe a few others. But I had no idea that there were so many other small, vibrant, culturally sophisticated islands down there. And it's just really fascinating to me. And so I'm really excited to nerd out and start researching all these other little islands. Because I think they just have a lot to offer. Apart from the beautiful weather and beautiful people and the beaches and stuff, there's a lot of culture down there. And a lot of, really good quality of life for a lot of people on the island. Obviously, not everyone is in an amazing situation down there, but it has really helped me get a better sense of how people live down there, and not just this, stigmatized stuff that you see on the news where, you look at like Haiti, where there's a lot of like underserved communities in Haiti and a lot of disadvantaged people and stuff like that. Obviously the TV show from HGTV is not going to show that stuff, but I think they do a really good job of not just focusing on those communities or those nations that are always in the news. They really take some time to put a spotlight on those smaller nations in smaller territories that are, have a lot to offer as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. And yeah, looking forward to being able to name every single little island in the Caribbean soon, because I love geography.
That's so funny. That's so interesting. Yeah, I guess because, I don't know. I guess because I am like Black Caribbean, like it's so interesting to me, like that a lot of people don't know, like there's so many different islands in the Caribbean. So yeah, it's not just the ones off the coast of Florida.
They even go down to Aruba, Curacao. They go a little bit west towards Honduras. There's some islands north of Honduras that are really popular, and around Panama and stuff like that. So it's really really exciting, and I'm really really excited to learn more about the Caribbean.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I love it.
Yep. Well, yeah, I think that wraps it up for us today. So as always, this was the Slight Sarcasm Podcast. I'm Amber.
I'm Celeste.
As always, we want to thank you all for listening, and we encourage you to take a look at our social media, which will be linked in the show notes, along with some other things that we talked about in the show today. And you can also email us with questions or suggestions at theslightsarcasmpodcast@gmail.com. So yeah, thanks again, and we hope you'll join us in the next episode.